Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first day of week 4. It's a shorter week because we had Labor Day yesterday, and I decided, rather than make a video and post a discussion question yet, to go ahead and let you enjoy your 3-day weekend. But your discussion questions are posted, and you're watching the video, so here we go. This week, unfortunately, we're going to have 2 discussion questions. I could not think of a way to merge Blake and Keats in with Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft, we're going to start with. It's a long reading, so it's going to take you some time to get through it. I do have a slideshow on this reading in D2L. But my suggestion would be is to go ahead and open that slideshow and follow along with it as you're reading the actual reading, and hopefully it'll clarify some of what Mary Wollstonecraft is saying. Because there are certain ideas in her work that are a little bit specific to her time. But there's some universality in that applies today too. As you're reading the Mary Wollstonecraft, remember that her main argument is going to be that women, or little girls I should say, should receive the same education as little boys. During her time, the women were being educated to attract a husband. Not really to be a good wife once she has the husband, but rather to attract a husband and get married. That was the state of women that were in the middle and upper classes. As it turns out, it did not make for happy marriages, because once, that flirty, cute little 18, 20-year-old girl grew up into a woman and was still acting like an 18 or 20-year-old girl, it just wasn't that cute anymore. Once a woman reached her 30s, she should act like a woman. She should act like a wife. She should act like a mother. And as it turned out, a lot of women didn't know how to do that. All they knew how to do is act like flirty little teenagers. And it led to a lot of, in Mary Wollstonecraft's argument, it led to a lot of infidelity in marriages, where the man would go seeking stimulation elsewhere. And sometimes women, because they weren't getting the attention they wanted from their husbands, would also have affairs. So Mary Wollstonecraft's going to make the argument in Vindication of the Rights of Woman, and notice that it's woman, singular, not women. She's going to make the argument there that the education of little girls is flawed, and they need to get the same education men do to prepare them not only for the real world, but also better prepare them for marriage and to make them into better wives and mothers than the crop of women that were out there now. All right, your other 2 authors that you're going to look at this week, and I've reduced the reading load, but they're still there. You've got William Blake. Now, William Blake, he's early on in the Romantic period. These poems were written before lyrical ballads, actually. And what William Blake did was he was more of an artist than he was a poet. Now, his art still survives. In fact, I think in the William Blake slideshow, I'm pretty sure in the William Blake slideshow, if you open that slideshow, you'll see that art. And you'll see that these poems that you have to read for this week, which are Lamb and Tiger, and I think the Chimney Sweep poems, those, or maybe it's just Lamb and Tiger. I think Lamb and Tiger is the only ones I gave you this semester. But in Lamb and Tiger, look at how the poem is actually integrated into the artwork, and notice how that picture that you're going to see with the poem is actually going to help in some way clarify the poem itself. William Blake wrote these poems specifically for children, but now as adults we read them as well because they are that good. Notice also that the lamb and the tiger are 2 different sides of the same coin. Notice how both of them were created by the same God, but the lamb is gentle and the tiger is fierce. And notice how the imagery in both, so the lamb is soft and it plays out in the fields and whatnot, whereas the tiger was forged in a blacksmith shop, and all the steel and the metal and the hammering and all the strong muscle that's in the tiger and such. So pay attention to that as you read that pair of poems, because those 2 poems work together. They're not separate entities. Then for Keats, I've got you reading 2 poems. I've got you reading on the Elgin Marbles, which is about these marbles. In fact, look at the John Keats slideshow. These marbles were part of the Parthenon in Athens. and a guy by the name of Elgin, Lord Elgin, took those and moved them to England, where he put them in the British Museum. Greece wants those back, just like the Grecian urns in the other poem. Greece wants those back, and England is saying, "Oh, no, 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 these are ours now. Possession is 9/10 of the law." In fact, the Greeks have actually built a building specifically to put those Elgin marbles in once England gives them back up, which doesn't look likely anytime in the near future. But it's all about aging, and it's all about immortality. And the Grecian urn is also about immortality and eternal youth. But what is the penalty for that? So, for example, in the Grecian urn poem, where the young lover's got his lips puckered and he's about to kiss his girlfriend, yet they just don't make it. The lips are right there, this close, and yet he never receives that kiss. And it's been like that for hundreds of years, and it will be like that hundreds of years after we're dead and gone. But he has his eternal youth, he has his eternal life, but he's frozen in time, and he just isn't going to get that kiss. But on the bright side, hey, your girlfriend will always be beautiful. She's not going to age like a human woman does. So that's the flip side to that. So look at the themes of immortality in the Keats poems. John Keats, ironically enough, after writing about immortality, did die at the young age of 25. And yet he had a major body of work at the age of 25, which makes me very envious. But think about that as you read these two Keats poems. So you'll have two discussions this week instead of just one. I'm hoping that most every week from here on out you'll only have one. Speaking of discussions, let me just take one final moment here, the last thing I'm going to say in this video, to say that my goal had been to grade all of your discussion postings over the weekend. Especially with a 3-day weekend, it would seem fitting, right? Well, life intruded, and I wasn't able to even start grading them yet. So my priority now is to get your discussion postings and my other British Lit classes discussion postings graded over the next 2 or 3 days. That's my goal. Now, if you haven't learned by now, sometimes I don't always reach those goals. But I will get on those discussions. I will give you comments. If I were you, I would wait on the week 4 postings until you've got your grades on your weeks 2 and 3, because I will give you comments on why you lost the points you lost. And so you can actually use those as your guide throughout the remainder of the semester, because I won't make as many comments once I've done these first 2 weeks. So that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed this week's readings. I hope that Mary Wollstonecraft stimulates you, especially the young women out there that are reading it. And I hope that you enjoy William Blake and John Keats. I think they're great poems. It'll be a nice change of pace from last week's French Revolution readings. And on that note, remember to always call me during my office hours. Now, most of this week, I'll be leaving my office at around 3:30 instead of leaving at 4. For example, tomorrow I've got a big meeting in that the chair of my department is called that I can't miss, and it starts at 3:30. So it looks like I'll be leaving at 3:30 this week instead of 4, but you can still leave a phone call, leave a message, I'll call you back, or send me an email, preferably through the D2L email, but you can also use the regular email, and we can try to answer your questions that way. Remember that if it would take a long time to write my answer, I'll say give me a call or visit my office, because that's more effective than me writing a 20-page email and then you still coming back with 5 more questions. So that's it, and happy reading, and I hope you enjoy them.